Welcome to Leader in the Spotlight, where we take a look at a head of state from any point in history. This week's leader is American President Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was born on October 27, 1858. He had two wives, Alice Hathaway and Edith Caro, and had a total of 7 kids. He was obviously born in the United States, and for a fun fact, he was extremely frail as a child, but willed himself to be strong and worked out to make himself healthy. A famous quote by him is, "I am only an average man, but I work harder at it than the average man." Teddy Roosevelt served in the Spanish-American War. Once war broke out with Spain, Theodore Roosevelt left his post within the government to lead the 1st U.S. Volunteer Cavalry, aka the Rough Riders. His obvious achievement was his victory at the Battle of San Juan Hill, becoming a war hero in the process. After an unsuccessful bid for mayor of New York City, TR served as a civil service commissioner and then president of the New York City Police Board. It was during his early political career that TR's reputation as an honest crime fighter came to fruition. While crusading in New York, the local political machine became very wary of his intentions, so they bumped him into consideration for the vice presidency. Unfortunately for them, William McKinley was assassinated soon after his election, leaving Teddy as his own successor. TR's well-known achievement was his trust busting. At the time, Washington, D.C. was in the pockets of wealthy corporations, leaving the American people somewhat voiceless in the legislature. Using the 1890 Sherman Antitrust Act, Roosevelt went on the offensive, taking down major conglomerates who were using unfair business practices that were detrimental to the American people. While Theodore Roosevelt had many successes in his career, the 3 others that stand out are the Roosevelt Corollary, which gave the United States the right to police the Western Hemisphere without interference from Europe, creating the Panama Canal, and finally establishing the national park system across the United States. While some may question his trust-busting ways, Roosevelt took a misstep when he renovated the White House during his administration. The presidential mansion did need some serious work, however TR's expansion created problems that would become extremely costly during the Truman administration. While he did technically serve 2 terms in the office, he was only elected for 1. He chose not to run for another term, which we probably would have liked to change later in life. During the 1912 election, Theodore Roosevelt challenged incumbent William Howard Taft, his former hand-picked successor, for the rights to the presidency. These two fought long and hard for the Republican votes, even though TR ran as part of his own Bull Moose party. While this was the closest a third party came to winning an election in recent memory, Roosevelt only claimed 88 electoral votes, while Woodrow Wilson won the election by a landslide with 435 electoral votes. Theodore Roosevelt did think of running for the presidency again, but these dreams never came to fruition due to conservative Republicans never wanting to support the former president. Once out of politics, Theodore Roosevelt became a world traveler, spanning all parts of the globe, but most famously traveling to South America and Africa. World War I gave Roosevelt much trouble in his later years. Roosevelt bashed Woodrow Wilson on his softened stance toward the German government after their blatant violation of Belgian neutrality, and he also became one of the loudest voices in support for the Allied cause. When the Americans did finally enter the war, Wilson refused to allow Roosevelt to fight for the army a second time. However, one of TR's sons joined as a pilot and was shot down over European skies. Theodore Roosevelt would succumb to a blood clot on January 5, 1919. Theodore Roosevelt's legacy is one full of success and near mythology. His life is full of fantastic stories of courage, fearlessness, and justice. The 26th president lives on in many stories that have been passed down by generations of Americans. From his cavalry charge at San Juan Hill to the story of him releasing a bear cub on a hunting trip, Roosevelt is in many ways similar in reputation to Washington in regards to his absolute heroism. Thanks for watching this week's Leadership Spotlight. Make sure to check back soon for our next video.